So this meeting for us is part of that. You know, meeting soulful people who come from different walks, who are interested in this problem, this issue. Some of it is discussion, some of it is actually action plan. And so I was really glad to hear you say that because it turned on the light for me.
So, and I agree. The idea of having an informal network to support the formal learning of our students. So I run a program called the SF Achievers in San Francisco. And it was an idea that me and a friend of mine, Theo Miller, said, hey, for some reason our success, both being young men of color that grew up in inner city, I grew up here in the city, born in St. Luke's Hospital, my success, graduated from law school, came back, felt like luck. It was pure luck that I made it, that it was a chance that someone came and fell from the heavens and said, hey, here's an opportunity for you. And there's hundreds of those people that fell into my life. The success of our students should not be dependent on luck. There should be a system in place that allows them to say, if I want to, I can do this. For those kids, you could have been that angel, and maybe that day wasn't for them. Maybe tomorrow it is. What we decided is, we're not going to have a program that sits them and says, here's this curriculum that's going to teach you how to do X, Y, and Z. We're going to provide what you don't even know you need. And what that means is, we tell kids, you can be whatever you want to be. But what we fail to mention is that you can't be something you've never seen.
Yes. Right.
And so we expose them. And we say, we're going to introduce you to artists, to CEOs of companies, to organizers, to people who you've never met. And the best thing of it all, tomorrow's our graduation, every single one of them lives in public housing in San Francisco.
Wow.
We have kids in our program who've never been to the Presidio. We took them to Marin Headlands. They had never crossed the Golden Gate Bridge, half of them. We have 35 of them. These are the students that have so much potential, and explaining to them that the skills you learn on the street are ridiculously transferable to the skills to succeed in life, but no one has ever explained it like that to them.
Right.
And we had one child, at the end of the day, the focus of the program, the outcomes are a little fluid. And the people who helped fund it were like, well, what are the outcomes? And we said, it's brotherhood. That at the end of the day, after 6 weeks, the kids that come into this program didn't know each other. They leave saying, I just joined the family. And I have a network. And now, what's happening? These informal networks, we have kids now who got a full ride to Tulane University. And he said, I made it, I got a full ride, but I still don't even have money to get there. And so we say, through government, hey, we can't have the bureaucracy or the red tape. We need money now to help these kids right now. He needs to pay for his books, he needs to get there, and he needs to be able to pay first and last month's rent. We don't need to fill it out and explain why, let's just get it to them. It changes his life. Changes his life, and now he's there. So having that informal safety net to support, I think, is absolutely crucial.
It's psychologically knowing it's there.
Right.
Makes it all the
Edwin,
difference.
what's the name of your program?
SF Achievers. Yeah.
Okay. And then how do you guys recruit students?
High school age. So youngest 15, eldest is 20.
Well, actually, you know what? I think I worked a little bit with some of those young people.
So there's another one in the east. Oh, actually, I think you did.
Yeah, because we worked on
The video.
about the police.
That's right.
Actually, I worked with them.
So you know them.
Yeah, no.
On what project on this film?
Yeah, they did. They did. Actually, I helped them. They did all the work. I just kind of helped sort of be a supervisor. They shot 2 short documentaries with the iPhones, and one was about diversity on the San Francisco police force, and then they followed the academy and talked with the police and all them around community police relationship. Now, it was a really, no, those young people, man, those dudes are down, man.
Yeah.
I do gotta give it to them. I was like, so you guys did a good thing in terms of pulling some young people that really needed that experience to kind of get up under their belt and give them, some confidence, and that was powerful. No. So you're SF Achievers, huh?
So how easy is it for students to be in this program?
Very. Honestly, the requirement is we show up to the public schools and we go to the local neighborhoods. To Double Rock, we go to Potrero Hill, we go to Sunnydale, and we say we have a program. And the kids that come up and shake our hands and say, I want to do it, they're in. Because what we realize is you can't, the application, you can do all that, but all it takes is if you can find a student or a kid that cares about something, then you can work with them. You can work with them. There's people who are much more advanced and have much more expertise than I ever will that can work with kids that don't care about anything. And I met them. I have friends who are that. And that's much harder to get through. But someone who says, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I love basketball, or I love video games, or I love being on the block with my friends. That's all we need to know.
Nice. When you brought up something, a theme, you said family. And again, it ties into belonging. When you let a kid know that this is family, it opens doors for them.
Oh, it's amazing. Side note, I don't mean to call up the discussion, but last year we did a healing circle because there was some conflict of trauma with some of the students who go home and see their parents sell drugs. And for 4 hours we sat in a circle, and these kids opened up so much to where some of the stuff I can't even tell you. But one of the boys said, we were going around the circle and it was the last one, and he said, I hear so much pain in this room. I hear so much struggle. He was 14 years old. And he said, but we need to be proud of our struggle. And he said, I didn't know it, but until today, I realized that we're struggling together and I can count on you. And so that symbolic idea of a synonymous struggle, that we're going at it together, he thought he was by himself until other people shared.
Thank you for sharing.
I'm so moved by this whole discussion, and so one thing I'm thinking about is, well, a couple things, but it's bringing up, I'm hearing in a lot of comments, just this talk, which I think needs to be named, around the economy and money and the struggle that is implicit and underlying in a lot of these youth's lives, and therefore all of our lives, no matter where, with the richest of the rich and the poorest of the poor. The economy right now is effed. You know, it's choking the community because of the escalation of the redistribution toward the military. There's cuts about the arts. There's healthcare. You know, and you were mentioning it earlier how it's not just in the schools, that it's connected to, and I'll just name a few. It's connected to mental health institutions, connected to the economy, connected to what jobs are providing for what. And there's policies being had where there's minimum wages being raised, and that's great. And there's policies, but there is an underlying silencing of the continual historical wounds and historical traumas that are still silenced, that are really still continue to haunt all these institutions. And down to it trickles into the classroom, because what moved all of us, it seemed, is that you allowed in capturing the allowing for these youth to speak. And it feels like we're all moved from that simplicity of allowing for a youth to speak and to be heard. I see you, I feel you, you know, that basic thing. So in my head, I'm like, and you mentioned this before, well, it's such a simple thing, but institutionally, it's not reflecting in our culture, in our society, in our government. So what is that disconnect? And so I just wonder, if I can dream for a second, what would it be like to mandate in all the schools to have a course about historical trauma? We're not there yet, because it's going to trigger so much of our own stuff. And there's a lot of us who are not ready for that, and there's a lot of us who are. But what if we could actually address the wounds from the past that are trickling into today, that are really haunting the classrooms, not allowing for students to be heard? And I'll just close on one last thing. You know, I had the, it's gonna make me choke up because I haven't even been able to really process how powerful the experience was for me, but just for 1 month I taught at 5 Keys Charter School, and I work with incarcerated people, but it was the first time working with men in San Bruno. And it's not that I'm such an amazing teacher, you know, I'm actually disorganized half the fucking time, but you know, the simplicity of allowing space for these men to share was groundbreaking for them. It's so humbling. And a student coming up to me saying like, Miss S, no one's ever asked me what I thought. Like, it makes me cry. Like, that's the basis of education, you know? And I think it's up to us too, as people who care so much, to, yes, we can get so down and we can feel really like, man, everything's messed up. I feel like it's our duty and responsibility to show up with hope, and to show up saying that, like, yes, the systems seem impossible to change, but in this moment, I'm gonna see you, I'm gonna feel you, I'm gonna hear what you have to say. And yes, there's deputies patrolling the hallway, and once you get out of this classroom, you're gonna be back in jail, but at least for a second, let's feel free.
Yes.
You know?
Thank you.
So.
The blues form, or the blues as a musical device, is something that Louis Armstrong not only mastered, but he used in a way that allowed him to tell the story of what was happening around him in New Orleans. Because he was born in New Orleans, August 4th, 1901. And he's like the Tupac song. He grew up through the cracks of the concrete and became a rose. All right, or the Tupac poem. And he discovered the trumpet when he was in what was called the colored waist home, which is the equivalent of a juvenile hall. And there, he didn't discover trumpet, he discovered cornet. And then later on he played trumpet. But had he not found music, he would have been forgotten, unknown person. He found music when he was locked up. He found a possibility. Someone saw a gift in him. They gave him an instrument, and that instrument essentially freed him. Because once he got out, he got so interested in playing this instrument while he was locked up, he got good. And then when he got out, he began playing. He moved to Chicago in 1920. He joined his mentor's band, King Oliver. He started his own band with his second wife, which was Lil Hardin, called Hot Fives, and then later be called Hot Sevens. But along the way, in his entire career, he used the form of the blues, he used blues music as his most important way of expressing himself.
Okay, so just some background information on this inspiration of this poem. Marcus has been going to the Juvenile Justice Center for 2 years, and I just joined him in April. And the first day I went, he was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Nothing." I was speechless. I couldn't really speak. I couldn't really find the words because I was so impacted by the youth, these beautiful black and brown kids who sadly predominantly make the juvenile justice system. And it was like an age range from 12 to 17, but man, they have so much heart and raw talent, and they're so present, that I really, really believe that if we just give of ourselves and of our hearts, and we let them know that they're loved, and we provide them with mentorship and resources, they can reach the potential that they are given in this life. So I wrote this poem in honor of them, and it's called Kings and Queens. Kings and Queens. And if you need me to speak up, just let me know, all right? Okay. Are you ready? The beat, the bass, the rhythm, the pace. In her speech, in his walk, they watched amazed. To them, an unknown space got them quivering in a daze. Wow, homie, my light shines that bright, can't look me in the face without shades. That's a shame for you, 'cause you missing the truth. gospel of the youth. Let my pain be my voice, my weapon of choice. No hate, all love. I thrive in this collective body I dwell. My actions cast a spell on the oppressor. Truth I tell, never succumb to your poison. Got me jonesing. I release aim high, soar into purple skies. Feel my heart, see my soul, stride by stride. And behold what you see, the rose that grew out of concrete. Yes, best believe, I reclaimed my voice. I reclaimed my place. I reclaimed my place in royalty. Thank you.
No more silence, I gotta open up and let you hear. They say what's wrong with me, I've been a victim of my fear. Because them same hands that I've been using so I can grab onto them sedatives could add on to my testament and crash to the deficit, huh? Who's fighting for me up in my little world? I know my mama used to be somebody's little girl. Starving for knowledge and I'm thirsty for change. I remember them days when I was snatching purses and chains in foster homes, watching those other kids get mad presents. Sometimes absence can be as damaging as bad presents. How come they moving on with life and I'm mad stressing? Regrets got me dreaming of a second adolescence. About those days of my youth that I've been holding and caressing are very dear to me, but my life is in session. See, those days of my youth that I've been holding and caressing aren't very clear to me, but my life is in session, huh? Don't wait, because you're running out of time. Yesterday is gone, 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 yeah. Don't wait, because you're running out of time. Yesterday is gone, 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 ooh, it's gone, yeah. When the fight needs and lightning, but it's rightly inviting the titan. I'm liking the fights, been a while, get the urge of the dicing. I liking it, knife in a wide and adversity slicing. I'm fighting with mice like I'm guiling, searching for bison. Mind wet from swimming in my sea of desolation. I refuse to keep on drowning in my quiet desperation. Tell me, whether should I face them, a bigger victim of misplacement. Carving scriptures on the wall, they got me chained atop the basement. Miles in my shoes, you better use the metric system. Cause me, I'm a slave to my own perfectionism. I said miles in my shoes, you better use the metric system. Cause we a slave to our own perfectionism. Hey, don't wait, because you're running out of time. Yesterday is gone, 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 yeah. Don't wait, because you're running out of time. Yesterday is gone, gone, gone. Who is gone? Gone, 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 gone. It's gone, gone, gone. Who is gone? Gone.
So my name is Melora Green, and I am the curator for Inquiry and Impact here at Selmar Cultural Center. And this is my amazing co-curator, Rula. Thank you. My name is Rula Saiku, and I'm a curator and writer based here in San Francisco. Racism exists, sexism exists, homophobia exists, and as long as there's no type of equality, then we do need spaces that are welcoming to everyone's story, no matter what it is.
So my name is Mohammed Soriano Bilal, and I'm the executive director of the African American Art and Culture Complex. I think alternative spaces are critical to artistic expression, not just because there is a roof and a floor and walls and people can come in and participate, but I think that many of the places where I've been allowed to experiment with my art and I've seen experimentation has occurred in alternative spaces. It hasn't occurred in many of the pristine spaces. Those spaces are there for showcasing artwork that has been refined to some extent, right? Like they've gone through all the filters to get to this sort of pristine place. It's almost like a gallery when you go and you watch art in those places. But the smaller places, the alternative spaces, like the upper room that my dad used to run, like the center, like Soma Arts, you get to see the funk, man. You get to see like the funk in art, right? It's not always perfect. Sometimes, it throws you a little bit.
My name is Zachary Royer Scholes. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., which is where I was born and raised. I first started interacting with alternative art spaces in the Bay Area in the 90s when I was doing my undergraduate work out here at Stanford University, and would come up to the city and sort of go to the spaces of the day, many of which are still around, some of which aren't.
My name is Christian Frock. I'm an independent curator and writer based in the Bay Area. My independent curatorial enterprise, Invisible Venue, was started in 2005, and I collaborate with artists to present art in public spaces, online, and in the built environment. Alternative spaces address what artists need right then in that moment, and so you can't rely on large institutions to be able to do things as nimbly as alternative spaces. That's one of the great strengths of an alternative space. They can respond in the immediate moment to things that are happening in the world and support artists that way. And then, you have these great sort of projects that artists produce in their garages or their living rooms or a postal box or something like that. All of that stuff really matters in the long term. I mean, they're small gestures that become huge factors in terms of thinking about the evolution of art and contemporary practice.
The question of whether we still need alternative spaces is really one that I've been thinking about for at least 10 years, and it's difficult because for my generation, a lot of those ideas have been usurped and co-opted by museums.
My name is Emory Douglas. Former Minister of Culture, revolutionary artist for the Black Panther Party. I do political and social graphics, art, graphic arts. We always need alternative spaces because if there were no alternative spaces, then you'd have a lot of people left out. You wouldn't get that message. You wouldn't get that message that deals with issues that concern people who are outside of who are locked out or pushed out of the mainstream society.
I think space is beside the issue. I mean, if I had my way, I'd get rid of all the galleries and all the museums and all the performance art spaces, period. I'd wipe them all out. I think something dies when you create these kind of spaces that are only dedicated to art. It feels always to me like you're putting exotic animals in a petting zoo.
I'm Mrs. Elizabeth Stevens, her partner, #1. I'm an ecosexual. I'm made up of water and stardust and minerals and poop. I'm an artist and she's my muse.
And I'm Mrs. Annie Sprinkle. And I'm an artist and a professor and an environmental activist. And I'm made up of all of the things that Annie's made up of, except the poop. Oh my God, do we ever need alternative spaces now, especially now, because our culture seems to just be melding into one monolithic, capitalistic, neoliberal, beige room. It's not even white, it's just beige, and I hate beige.
I think we really need our alternative spaces. It's like playing the piano. You need the high keys and the low keys and all the black keys, and so we can get the full range. I love going to Museum of Modern Art or the Metropolitan. They offer something really powerful and beautiful, but alternative spaces also do, in a way that those highbrow institutions can't.
Do we still need alternative spaces? Yeah, I mean, this is, I think, it's a fundamental question in this period of transition that we're engaged in, where we're moving from the analog physical reality to the digital, remote, virtual world in a way. And, the simple answer is yes, of course we need to give voice to alternative positions. And positions that are outside the mainstream of either the art market or whatever form of capitalism is in control. But how we do that, I think is being reinvented now, and it could be through social networks. I like to think of Instagram as a creative medium. I mean, there's a fair number of people who just post photos of their dogs or what they're eating, but then there's others who I feel like, you know, I'm always going to find an artwork every time I go on Instagram.
Hi, my name is Madison Young, and I am a body-based performance artist. I also create installations. I am a curator and a sexual revolutionary. We still need alternative spaces. We totally still need alternative spaces. We need alternative spaces more than ever. We will need alternative spaces as long as there are freaks, as long as there are people pushing boundaries, as long as there are queers, and there are people that identify in different askew ways.
My name is Rene Yanez, house manager, curator for Day of the Dead, artist, and I also do the garden here at SOMARTS. It's one of my pleasures, actually. It's a difficult situation for nonprofit art spaces to keep up with the rents that are happening now. So things like that you have to communicate, but we need culture and we need working class people in the community, and hopefully some of that reflects their needs for culture and to express about identity issues and political issues. So all of those things I'm hoping to put together just a glimpse. The amount of space that I'm getting is not very big, so I'm going to try to be selective on the images that I use and the text and try to explain to people, and hopefully they'll get a glimpse.
My name is Jess Young. I'm interim director of SOMARTS Cultural Center. Previously, for 4 years, I was director of communications and community engagement. And originally, my work here was about connecting audiences on and offline to the work of the organization and doing institutional marketing and getting tons of people involved in our wonderful events, exhibitions, classes, and rental events. And now I am stepping up as SOMARTS interim leader as we look for a new person who will take this organization boldly forward. I absolutely think alternative spaces are critical. I think alternative spaces have historically been a place for marginalized communities to find and develop their artistic voices, to connect with others, and to learn.
I'm Kathleen McDonald. I am from the West Indies, specifically Barbados. That's where I grew up, and I moved to the Bay Area to pursue higher education 7 years ago. As an artist from the Caribbean, I feel like I don't have much of a community here, and that sort of was the inspiration for me to make this piece about West Indian heritage and about the West Indies culture, about my culture, and sort of reclaiming that for myself. Even though a lot of that was lost during colonization, I feel like I was able to reclaim it a little bit by remaking that history and presenting it and placing it in this art world that doesn't know too much about the Caribbean.
My name is Matt McKinley, McKinley Art Solutions. Here at SOMARTS, I'm the lead installer. I'm also an exhibit designer for some of the exhibitions that come through the main gallery. Outside of SOMARTS, I'm an art consultant and exhibit designer and installer for a variety of venues in a variety of situations. Alternative spaces are really the backbone of what makes San Francisco a vital art scene. Every city has galleries, you know, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Santa Fe, Miami. San Francisco is vital in the sense that, and the alternative spaces are vital in San Francisco in terms of, there's, I think at last count, over 30,000 artists working in the 9 Bay Area counties producing artwork. All these places, all these people deserve somewhere to show their work and to display their work. It's the type of cultural enrichment that makes San Francisco unique.
My name is Allison Snowpeck. I am the programs manager at ArtSpan. The way that San Francisco is currently changing, and economically and with real estate and the ability for artists to remain in San Francisco under these changing conditions, it is definitely important to have alternative spaces available for people in the artistic world who are creating their artwork for the passion behind artwork and not necessarily to make a lot of money in a city where you need to have a lot of money in order to sustain yourself.
My name is Carmina Eliason, and I have brought in a piece that I've been working on for the last couple of years called La Casa de mi Abuela. I think we're always going to need alternative spaces, for sure. There's always people who need a space to be able to tell their stories, and for me as a woman, and for me as the kind of artwork that I do, being able to tell my family's stories, and the only place that I could imagine telling them is in an alternative space, because there's a safety there of being able to say those things out loud and to have people approach them and be open to them in a way that maybe isn't possible in mainstream spaces.
I'm Carolina Quintanilla, and I'm the exhibitions intern here. I've been here since, I want to say, November last year. I don't think there is enough alternative spaces. This space has been amazing to me. It's given me motivation and mentorship. I'm exhibiting, and I've never done that before, and that's only possible because of the mentorship that I've had in this alternative space. I also think that we need more alternative spaces in our neighborhoods, not just, in Soma or in downtown. I think that we need some in our neighborhoods for, us to go to.
My name is Dwayne Detterville. I'm a visual artist and a writer and scholar of visual culture. And a good deal of my focus in both my artwork and my writing has to do with African and African diasporic visual culture, Black visual culture.
I'm Reefer One, and a spray can muralist. I've been working as a revolutionary artist for almost 30 years now, and I'm the director of a Pan-African spray can art organization called Aerosol, and I'm one of the primary organizers of the Open Rooms.
Yeah, absolutely. We still need alternative spaces because we live in a neo-European nation state. Western nation state that has some pretty oppressive practices in regards to African people, and our focus is, liberation for African people, spiritually, intellectually, physically, etc., and so forth. So space is very important in that regard, and this piece that we're displaying is very important in that regard. So, yeah, we absolutely need alternative spaces, and we do that autonomously without permission. We create alternative space.
I guess I'll speak directly, to the question in the sense that instead of saying alternate spaces, we need safe Black African spaces. Where we can find points of unity with other struggling people in terms of our allies that are struggling against the same system of white supremacy, that's cool. But our particular plight in the world right now requires African people to have safe Black African spaces. So I'm definitely an advocate for that and working to build it and support it wherever I can in the African diaspora. So absolutely.
My name is Brittany Kathy Adams, and I'm a photographer, and I make work about the land and the body and putting myself out there, representation of a body that's rarely seen in photography. I believe that we've made great achievements in art and in culture to kind of broaden some things, but I still feel like there's pieces missing, there's definitions not happening, there's general broadening, but there's not specifics. And so that's kind of what my job as an artist is to do, is to be more specific once we broaden generally.
My name is Marlon Sagana Ingram. I'm here working on an exhibition called Beautiful Connection. There's a whole generation out there of kids in the street art culture that just take alternative spaces, but yeah, I think we should have more. Yeah, they create, space for imagination, pretty much. And I think that's always healthy. So, but me being an old hip-hop enthusiast, it's always about the message. So it's not really too much focus on the art, but more of the message. But I'm glad that Soma Arts is giving me, and thankful and very appreciative of Soma Arts giving me an opportunity to deliver this message.
Cold wind blew across your still sleeping body. You wake up to a shiver. Whoa. What? What? No. This isn't right. Dog. Was in fact a dog. So how come you see dog flying 5 feet above the ground? You don't understand what's going on. So you grab dog and rush out the door, heading to your normal vet. The street is cold on your feet. The city smells of trash and pollution. On the way to the vet's office, you start to feel dog. Okay, 4 paws, a head, a tail, a body, but on the sides of the body are 2 brown, feathery wings. You don't want to think about it, so you focus on getting to the vet's. Once you enter the veterinarian hospital, the warm air greets you, but so does that sterile and medicine-induced hospital smell. From the second you walk in, it assaults your nostrils, but you have no time to dwell on it now. You've calmed down enough to think straight. You enter your vet's office and set down dog, which you had forgotten about. Sarah's dog's vet. Sarah, who is dog's vet, is at her desk, doing some work. You clear your throat. Sarah looks up and smiles, but she's looking at you funny. Maybe she also sees dog flying, but decided to tell her everything from the beginning anyways. So, Sarah, this morning when I woke up, dog was flying 5 feet above the ground. You say, well, dog is flying next to you. Sarah sighs and says, dogs have always been able to fly. Are you just realizing this now? You stumble back, your mind going at ludicrous speeds. After a minute of thinking, you speak again. But yesterday at the dog park, not a single dog had wings. You must have imagined that. After about an hour, you've come to a conclusion. Sarah was no help. On your way out, you begin to feel like you're going crazy. Dog brushes up against your leg, his feathery wing touching you. You then realize why Sarah was looking at you funny. You're still in your pajamas. With that simple thought, you dash off home, dog flying right beside you.
Our next reader is going to be Luming Yuan.
So my piece is going to be a poem that I wrote out of a love letter that I wrote. It's called To an Expired Dream. 3 years ago, I saw you in the honeyed glaze of adolescence, and you were my whirlpool, my optional bullet to the heart. I knew I could be smothered by the force of your waves, knew the obstacles no one could face, but I jumped anyway, silently head first. Then I was submerged, but like the trembling smoothness of rain, it felt rain. 2 years ago, you were but a gentle dream, a cool sprinkling of water droplets that laid themselves upon my cheek. I treaded along your castle walls, but knew you dined with queens, so I dared not speak. 1 year ago, 16 was sweet like bright nectar, as I blossomed a sturdy backbone, as you sprouted relentless wings and saved lovesick damsels. But you were still the brightest fantasy, the sour stream of expired dreams. If I were bigger, I would have reached you. If I were better, you would have invited me in, past your vortex, but I am not, and our time is spent. Years have flown by with the current, water slows and chugs along, repetitively, prepared to stop. But before the waters calm, before the world moves on, be quiet, be with me. Let me feel the waves pound at the edges of our whirlpool, throwing rivers in the heavy air as it crumbles, melts into soft ocean, as our boundaries disappear. Make me infinite as if the world is just two mismatched orphans, as if we had a chance to say hello before nature forced a goodbye.
Our next reader is going to be Mateo Rosales Cisneros.
I just want to say that 2 days, August 9th, is the 1 year anniversary of Michael Brown's death. So I wrote this piece, which is called The Lives of the Oppressed. Another late night with my mind filled with dumb math problems. I'll do it in the morning. I hop on the couch and rest my frustrated head on my cool pillow. I grab my phone and log into Twitter. I wonder what's trending. I immediately see Ferguson, Missouri, and the murder of an unarmed black male. I tapped on the tweet in interest and immediately began reading tweets from people all over the world using the hashtag Black Lives Matter. I needed to know more. I grabbed the remote and put on channel 2. Nothing. Just more useless television shows. I thought to myself, why is social media the only place I can get immediate information? Does the world want to hide this from us? Social media is an outlet for people of color to express themselves. As the week progressed and interest arose, more information about the victim was released. White police officer kills unarmed 18-year-old black male named Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. His hands were up and he was shot 6 times, 2 shots in his head. His body left in the streets for countless hours, like the days where black people were lynched and bodies left hanging. This was a way to intimidate and frighten other black people in an attempt to be tamed, a way to mute their mouths because they knew if they spoke up, their neck would be hanging alongside the others. We still live in a world of slavery where innocent black men are being murdered by white officers who shoot first and ask questions later. In 2014, the FBI statistics said that white officers killed unarmed black men or suspects at around 2 people a week. Society disempowers people of color and excludes them from equal opportunity. They are forced into neighborhoods where liquor stores infest every street corner and drugs used to ease the pain of their struggles. Today, concrete slavery might not exist, but people of color are still slaves to society, where they leave their homes each day wondering if they'll make it back.
Next up is going to be Cian Lang.
So this is an excerpt from my piece called Midnight Madness. Its bulbous yellow body seemingly glowed in the moon's rays. All 8 of its tiny eyes were fixed on me. And then, it blinked. Fear began to prance through my body, paralyzing every nerve it touched. I couldn't move. I became locked in unbreakable eye contact with the horrid arachnid. My heart began to pound. Sweat began to collect above my brow. I have to get out of here, I thought, terrified. The spider began to crawl across its web, as if mocking me. Anger clawed its way out of my chest, enveloping my fear in a fiery rage. I snatched the spider right out of its web, watching its tiny body squirm and writhe between my fingertips. I gave myself 5 seconds before I was to perform the unspeakable deed. 5, I stare into the spider's eyes. 4, a pang of guilt struck my heart. 3, I pushed the guilt away. 2, I took a deep breath as I inhaled the cool night air. 1, I closed my eyes. Now, I screamed to myself. I tilted my head back, opened my mouth, and held my sweaty hand over my face. Then, I opened my fingers, releasing my vice grip. The spider squirmed in my mouth for a second before I bit down. It stops moving, and an odd, unexplainable taste fills my mouth. The fear I suppressed earlier returned, this time with 10 times the intensity. I gagged and spit out what once was a spider. I see the dismembered body of what once was my greatest foe lying in a pool of saliva on the floor. But I knew that deep inside my soul, the spider will never truly leave my body. I start to think of the story about the old lady who swallowed a fly, and then swallowed a spider to eat the fly. Oh, what an awful lesson that story teaches. Swallowing a spider is a horrendous idea. I ran back to my bedroom and covered myself up with blankets. Now, I know for sure it's the only way I can stay safe. But something is still not right. Clutching the fabric tighter, I try to tell myself that my fear will disappear, that I will grow out of it. I try to tell myself that I will find a way to conquer my fear, that eating a spider was just the wrong way to do it. However, I know these words are empty. They hold no real truth. Because of my 12 a.m. induced ecstasy, my fear will never truly dissipate. Because of my midnight madness, the spiders will never stop coming. For now, they are inside me.
Next up is Ruby Spees.
Discarnate. I am getting acquainted with my kitchen floorboards. Even that is a lot to ask of my smallness. I am diluted and hunched on this floor, and the brightness is more than I am comfortable knowing. Today I am so small that the mirror is a giant, and it is nearly impossible to get a glimpse of myself. On days I inhabit everywhere I know and nowhere I recognize. I grow like stretching bones. I am above myself. I shed my too small body. When I return to it, I am large and spill out of my chair and believe my dangling legs are capable of fine motor skills and seduction. I am a paperweight to hold the floor down. Rare mornings I awake so far from my body that I have no sense of size at all. I do not touch the ground because I am uncertain of the durability of my muscles, or maybe because my legs are immobile and I do not rise from my bed. I am awake in a body I am learning to stay put.
Next up is Namali Hiplet.
I'm going to be reading a piece called The Escape of Luna May. She disappeared with no real goodbye. Under most circumstances, much like a cat too nosy for its own good, we humans love a good mystery. The Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, the perfect mixture of fear and curiosity. But in this case, the unknown was the scariest part of it all. Mama taught me to never fear death, but I had never given it much thought until now. Over plates of pan de muerto, New Mexico taught me, la vida es un regalo. It should be celebrated. The dead didn't scare me. Plus, how can I mourn when my hands are mid-prayer and my neck is dripping with healing crystals? Oh, and these tears? These aren't tears of loss. These are the effects of too much sagebrush smoke. But all the herbal tea in the world couldn't quench my thirst for the truth of what happened to Luna May, the girl next door. The last time I saw her, it was an early fall morning. The wind was constant, but bearable. The falling leaves were unusually crimson, and our suburban town felt quiet. Everyone was holding their breath. As I clumsily hopped down the marble steps, my backpack jolting me forward, I felt her eyes watching me. Gray with an almost yellow quality. Through the white bars of the gate, I spotted her, perching high up on her ivory fence like royalty. She looked uneasy, her dark brown hair spiraling in all directions. She told me she kept secrets in those curls. I would laugh, and she would laugh too, but neither of us thought it was that funny. I'd snuggle deeper under the blankets while she told me stories of people in far-off places, and how she'd join them someday. El mundo es más grande de lo que piensas, she would preach. She wasn't happy here, and we both knew it. Everyone knew it. Mama started the engine of our old Saab, pulling me back to the present. The car rolled to life. The car roared to life like an old dog that still barks at the mailman. Through the foggy glass, I heard her somber goodbye. Wordless, but powerful. We held eye contact until she was just a fuzzy speck in the distance, wild hair and glowing eyes. The next day, her death was in the papers, her picture stained with drips of Daddy's coffee, her frizzy hair overflowing with secrets. And those eyes, no one ever saw those bright eyes again.
And the last person I'm going to be presenting is Luca Vandermeer.
Hi, so this is gonna, hello. Okay, this is an excerpt from my piece, Chicago Streets. You glance behind you and are relieved to find none of your competition in plain sight. Wind rushes through your hair as you accelerate on a straightaway. Picking up speed, you look to the sides and see blurry fields of daisies whiz by as your legs carry you onward at an astounding pace. You glide around the corner in resounding command of your body's actions with precision like that of a god with a bow in hand. Sights set on the finish line. Sights set on a red strip of paper with big bold letters reading the word finish. You give the last few feet everything you have and are moving at a pace faster than anything you've ever achieved in your life. You're inches away when bam! You are caught by a powerful gust of wind that sweeps you off your feet and up what feels like 10 miles into the air. Gravity takes control, and you are filled with fear as you stare down at the rapidly approaching ground. You brace yourself for impact and close your eyes, just to open them again, face down in the pillow. Thankful to be alive, you roll back over, already thinking of the bacon that you're going to make yourself for breakfast. When there he is, your worst nightmare, the hooded figure standing over you with a knife. As you roll to the side, attempting to avoid an impending doom, you feel an unbearable pain like white-hot daggers start at the right side of your head and swiftly surge through your body. You roll off your bed, leaving your ear behind on the pillow, and by some miracle land on your feet. Mind racing, you have to think fast. Spurred forth by adrenaline, you throw your bedside lamp out the window, smashing the glass. Then you launch yourself out after it in a last-ditch effort for survival. As you fall, you remember his blacked-out face and think to yourself, who is this, and why are they attacking? But this doesn't stop your fall. After cursing your landlord for years for putting you in the room right above the dumpster, you praise him for not listening as the bags save your life from this two-story fall. As well as garbage bags, you land on glass and fragments of pottery from your lamp, but you hardly notice it, knowing you can't lose much more blood and expect to stand. You look for options of what to do next, but then a small shiny object catches your eye as it hurtles down from the broken window. You can only just make out what it is, as the knife catches you right in the thigh. Staring at the knife, you slowly pull your gaze back up towards the window, where the hooded assailant is leaning out staring at you, and you pray to God that it is not the last thing you will ever see, as the world around you slowly fades to black.